بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأوحينا إلى موسى وأخيه أن تبوأ لقومكما بمصر بيوتا واجعلوا بيوتكم قبلة وأقيموا الصلاة وبشر المؤمنين. وقال موسى ربنا إنك آتيت فرعون وملأه زينة وأموالا في الحياة الدنيا ربنا ليضلوا عن سبيلك ربنا اطمس على أموالهم واشدد على قلوبهم فلا يؤمنوا حتى يروا العذاب الأليم. قال قد أجيبت دعوتكما فاستقيما ولا تتبعان سبيل الذين لا يعلمون. وجاوزنا ببني إسرائيل البحر فأتبعهم فرعون وجنوده بغيا وعدوا حتى إذا أدركه الغرق قال آمنت أنه لا إله إلا الذي آمنت به بنو إسرائيل وأنا من المسلمين. الآن وقد عصيت قبل وكنت من المفسدين فاليوم ننجيك ببدنك لتكون لمن خلفك آية وإن كثيرا من الناس عن آياتنا لغافلون. صدق الله العظيم.
So that's why it's so important that we ourselves as individuals, we learn about Islam. We educate not only ourselves but the following generations. And what will this do? This will give us a sense of gratitude that we're Muslim. You know what? Alhamdulillah, in the midst of all this immorality in this society, alhamdulillah, Allah made me Muslim. This is what learning about Islam can do. And it can also, in the heat of Islamophobia, where Muslims are being attacked, in the heat of Islamophobia, it can give us a sense of pride. It can give us a sense of pride in our identity as Muslims. And it could also help us answer the question, why are we Muslim? We will be able to answer the question by saying that Islam is the haqq, it is the truth, it is the complete truth, and it is the path that can lead to never-ending happiness. So this is why we should strive to learn about Islam, so that we can answer the questions of our children. That when they have a question, we don't leave them in doubt. This is why it's very important that we learn and attend these programs where Islam is being taught. Therefore, I would like to ask Moulana Jamil, graduate of the Alamiya program in Darul, Uloom, New York, to enlighten us in regards to this matter of religion versus culture.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين عبده ورسوله. فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز: ومن يتبع غير الإسلام دينا فلن يقبل منه وهو في الآخرة من الخاسرين. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. وفي رواية آخر: من عمل عملا ليس عليه أمرنا فهو رد، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, my brothers and elders and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enlightened us and given us the ability to come to the masjid. My brothers and elders, when we see the children, when we see the youngsters in the masjid, is a time of very happy time. Should be a very happy occasion, because in this zamana, this era that we are living in today, coming to the masjid and following and practicing the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has already described it. He said that a time will come, يَأْتِي زَمَانٌ, that a time will come that a person trying to hold on and follow the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will become so difficult. It will be as if a person is trying to hold on to hot charcoal in his hand. A person will be trying to hold on to a piece of hot charcoal. This is how difficult and how hard practicing the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will become. And we see it today within us, even our friend circle, people that we know, our cousins, people in our family, who they say they are Muslim by name, they claim that they are Muslim, but when they are in a different environment or different setting and they're around a certain group of people, they disassociate Islam from them completely. They change their names, they shorten their names, they use different names other than their Islamic names which they were born with. They do not pray their salah. They do many different wrong things. And why? Just to fit in. And all of this is because of the fitna, and all of this is because of the corruption and all of the wrong things that are happening in today's society. So when we see the youth, youngsters in the masjid today, in this day and age, is something we should be very happy. And we should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He had given this young boy, this young child to come to the masjid, come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's house, even if it is just to pray. Even if the kid is coming and he is praying, or even if he's not praying in the salah, he's running around, he's doing different things, it's better that he runs around over here than he runs around and he does drugs and all these other wrong things with other groups of people. It's better that he is in this masjid, that he is in a good environment rather than being out somewhere else. Because we know, my brothers and elders, once a person starts to go off the straight path and they start going off and shaitan works on this person, shaitan's plans, when he works on a person, he doesn't tell them to leave Islam right away. Shaitan wants to deviate a person, he wants to take them away, he does istidraj. He slowly takes a person away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Slowly tells them, don't pray, then start hanging out with these people, start doing this, do this. Then finally shaitan will come to a point where doing evil actions, we're smoking, we're doing drugs, hanging out with the opposite gender, doing wrong things, missing the salah, cursing, backbiting, stealing, slandering, all of these things become habit. Once these things become a habit, shaitan leaves this person, he goes on and he starts working on the next person. How can he misguide? His mission was accomplished. And he was able to misguide a person 110% to such an extent where this person's habit is to start stealing, is to lie. Person's habit becomes backbiting. His habit becomes doing drugs. All of these things, once shaitan does this to a person, gets this to a person, his job and his mission is complete. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can guide a person at that stage. So my brothers and elders, when we see the youth, especially in this day and age, as I mentioned, in the masjid, and we see them and they are praying, even if they are not praying properly, even if they are, just fooling around and not doing what they're supposed to be doing, if they're coming to the masjid programs, they're not paying attention, at least they are in this good environment. Because at the end of the day, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he explained to us the environment, the power an environment has on a person. He says that a person goes into a perfume shop, even if he doesn't buy any sort of perfume, any sort of reciter, he will come out smelling good. Person who hangs out, a person with someone who is a blacksmith, person who's a blacksmith in the heat, in the smoke, even though he goes in there, he doesn't touch anything. He doesn't touch any of the metals. He doesn't do any sort of job that the blacksmith does. He just watches the blacksmith. He will come out of that store smelling like smoke. So similarly us, the youth in this environment, even if they're in the masjid doing nothing, sitting there on their phones, talking about different things, running around, fooling around, at least they are in the environment. They are in a good environment, the masjid will have some sort of effect on their iman. Maybe because this masjid is fun, maybe because they are allowed to use their phones openly, maybe because they are allowed to run around, they will come back again. Or let me go to the masjid because my friends are there, because I can use my phone openly, I have the Wi-Fi password, I have this XYZ, whatever things I can do here, they will want to come back again and again. And this, my brothers and elders, is much better than that, having them here, than rather having them outside. So my brothers and elders, we need to understand, and anytime we see our youth, we should always encourage them. Always encourage them, say mashallah, alhamdulillah, you came to the masjid. Congratulate them, give them glad tidings. Make them feel good that they are coming in. If they are coming in and we are yelling at them, telling them, be quiet, why are you talking too much, stop running around, they will feel discouraged and they will want to come to the masjid less often. So my brothers and elders, once we do this to our youth, inshallah, we will slowly see our masjid getting more and more populated. Because if we do not do this, then the situation which have happened to many other Muslim countries, where the masajid are there, are huge, but they are empty. No Muslims are coming. Why? Because the next generation of youth were not informed about what is Islam, what is the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the topic of our discussion today. Our topic of our discussion is Islam versus our culture. The deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala versus our culture. Today, unfortunately, it has become such where our deen and culture have become mixed and they have become one. They have turned into one thing where we cannot differentiate what is Islam. We cannot differentiate what is deen and what is our culture. This is because the lack of education is not there, that we are not informed about our deen. But my brothers and elders, before we get into that, before we even talk about the difference between these two, we need to first and foremost understand what is culture. What is the definition? The English definition of culture, the most easy definition that we can take is something, a knowledge and values which is shared by a common society, which is shared by one society or one group of people or one region of people. Right? We see that different groups of areas of people all over the world, everyone has different type of culture. Everyone's culture is different. The culture of America is different from the culture of China. The culture of China is different from the culture of Japan. The culture of Japan is different from the culture of Bangladesh. So all the cultures of the world, they're all different. And we have to also realize that these are all the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah in the Quran, He says that وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ وَأُنْثَى. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us as male and female. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created every single one of us in pairs, and male and female. And He has made all of us into groups. We are all different from different regions and from different groups. And Allah Rabbul Alameen then further goes on in the Quranic ayat, He tells us why we are in different groups. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make hundreds and thousands of languages all over the world? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do this? Right? And Allah says in the Quran afterwards, لِيَتَعَرَفُوا, that we can get to know one another. We can recognize one another. When we see one another, we can know and we see one another, and we will have respect for the cultures. This is what culture is. This is the culture which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created all over the world. Now my brothers and elders, we need to then further go on and we need to understand, what does Islam say about our culture? Does Islam tell a person, sometimes we know there are people out there that want to become Muslims, but because of the way Islam is portrayed, or because of the way they see, even forget about looking at the social media, maybe forget, let's say they come to the masjid, they come to a masjid which has one sort of community or one sort of group of people. It is not a diverse community. It is a Desi community. Let's take that for example. Right? A Desi community masjid. We have a Desi community masjid. People that want to become Muslim, they come in and they see the different things different people are doing. And some of these things are completely against Islam, or some of these things are not even related to Islam. Right? They will see different things, and sometimes they will feel that I have to let go of my culture to come into this. Do I have to start being like this? Do I have to start eating pan? Do I have to start drinking tea all the time? Do I have to start wearing a lungi? Do I have to start wearing a thobe? Do I have to start doing all of these things? My brothers and elders, culture, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all of the cultures and all of the people of different tribes and nations so we get to know one another. Unfortunately today our culture has seeped into our deen. Our culture has come and is mixed in with our deen, and because of that it becomes very hard and very difficult to differentiate. So my brothers and elders, we need to first and foremost need to understand, what accommodations does Islam have for our culture, for the things that we do within ourselves. we can very easily understand from in Islam, in the Islamic law, the fuqaha, the people who make the ahkam, the fiqh, the rulings of Islam, they have all come together in a consensus and they have made 5 rules which have been, all of them agree upon. And from these 5 rules, all of the ahkam and all of the rulings that we have today in our books of fiqh, these are all derived. And one of these rulings, one of the 5 rulings is that al-adatu muhkamatu, that the custom things, the things which the people of the custom, people of an area, something they do which is customary, this is law. That custom is law. That something which people do, something when all the people have a habit of doing, this becomes law. This becomes something which is law and you can make a hukum about it. For example, something which is very common and that we see all the time. When we go to buy food, anytime we want to go and buy food, anytime we go to buy food, we do not have to ask for napkins. We don't have to ask for spoons. These are things which are already given. There is no specific price. But in the Islamic sense, when we are buying food, let's say in Islamic sense, in an Islamic perspective, if I go to the gyro card and I tell the guy I want 1 gyro, the guy, I am only my $5 or $6, whatever amount of money I am paying for, I am only paying for the gyro. But it has become custom, has become known by everyone in New York City, that anytime you buy a gyro, you don't have to spend an extra $1 to get the spoon, to get the napkin, to get the bag. These are all customary, something which have all agreed upon. This is why Islam says that this is allowed as well. It's not supposed to be allowed that you getting the extra things because you are only paying for the food. But because it has become customary, because it has become something every single person has known and agreed upon, this is why Islam allows it. So we see just from this principle alone that Islam does have accommodations for our culture. For our culture, anything that we have in our culture, yes, Islam does allow it. Islam is not a religion like that of Judaism or that of Christianity, that when you come into the fold of Islam, you have to leave all the things that your culture is telling you to do. When a person is born a Jew, any single thing that he is doing that is against the culture of the Jews, he has to leave it. Person becomes a Christian, anything that he does that is against the culture of Christianity, he must leave it. Islam does not do this. Islam is a deen, is a religion which is very moderate. Islam is a religion where it's very moderate and in the middle. Islam never tells a person to leave something completely and go into it at once. Okay, so Islam, we need to understand, Islam is something very flexible. We see from one incident from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where the Prophet sallallahu, where it was the time of Eid, and there's some Ethiopians, the Abyssinian people, the people who went to Abyssinia, they came and they were Muslim as well. So some Ethiopians on the day of Eid, after the Eid Salah, of course we know Eid is a day of being happy, a day of where every single person should be celebrating and everyone should have some good food and all of these things. So these Ethiopian people, they started to play the duff, they started to play a drum. They started to play a drum and they started to play games and they started to have lots of fun. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu saw this and he wanted to go and he wanted to stop them. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told him, no, leave them. This is their culture, this is the way how they celebrate their festivities. Now that they have become Muslim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them Eid, let them celebrate their Eid the way they want to celebrate this Eid, the way they are accustomed to celebrating it. So we see from this incident of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that Islam does allow a person to practice their culture as well in the deen. Islam does allow this. And this is why the rule that custom it can become law. This rule in Islamic fiqh, in Islamic law is allowed as well. This law is allowed so that because sometimes a custom, sometimes something of culture which is in one region, this can become law, and because from this has to be respected and has to be accepted as well. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, a very pious scholar and a very famous scholar of the past, he writes in one of his famous books that when any person comes to you from a different land, or you do not know this person, before you give him a fatwa, before you tell him about the rulings of Islam, before you tell him and educate him about Islam and tell him that you have to do this and this, ask him where he is from. Ask him where he is from and ask him that what he is doing. Right? Ask him where he is from and ask the land that he is in. Do not give him a fatwa, do not teach him about, educate him about Islam, and don't tell him about the rulings which are related to your land, right? For example, let's say in our land, let's say in one particular land, wearing the color blue, this is worn by all the people who hate Islam. Now a person from another region, he comes to this land and he's wearing blue. Should we condemn this person right away? Should we tell this person that no, why are you wearing blue? Don't you understand that all the people who wear blue, they are the people who hate Islam? My brother, you have to ask this person, brother, where are you from? Are you not from this area? So this is why we need to understand that culture does play a role within our religion, within our deen. Islam does have a place in our deen. But the problem that we have today in this day and era is that there is a mix. There is a mix between our Islam and between our culture. And this is what we have to learn to differentiate, my brothers and elders, how to differentiate between the two. Because especially in our Desi communities, we see in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh area, the people from this community, we have a lot of the things that our grandparents have done, our great-grandparents have done, we have put all of these things into our deen. And then we have made them a part of deen. We have done, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said this, and we have done the exact opposite. My brothers and elders, Islam is something which is very simple, something which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came, and yes, he did allow. Yes, Rasulullah did accommodate to the culture of the people. Like he did accommodate to the culture of the people of Arabia, but he did those things which were not permissible, those things which went against the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he had prohibited them, he had abolished them completely. Many different things we know from that before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came was culture. For example, anytime if a person, before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the order of had, the capital punishment, when you kill someone in Islam, we know when we kill someone purposely, then the person who killed them will also be killed as well. And before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, the rule of the land was such that if a person killed someone, then their father can take their place. If a son killed one person, then the father will come and he will take the place of the son. If the father killed someone, the son will come and he will be killed in place of the father. These things Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had abolished because they went against the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anytime a person would pass away, all of the wealth would be inherited by the son. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam abolished that, and he divided the world such that the son will get this much, the wife will get this much, the daughters will get this much. Before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came, the daughters were something lowly, something that no one would want to have. Anytime a person's firstborn was a daughter, their faces were darkened. The Arabs, their faces were darkened, and they were not like this. They hated this, but they would marry to become such an extent, they would bury their daughters. We know different Sahaba, after they became Muslim, they were narrating their stories of how they would bury their daughters alive because of the shame that they felt a daughter would bring to them. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came, he abolished this culture. He told them, no, you cannot practice this, you will go according to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave lots of importance, and all of the things that the Arabs had ridiculed and they had disliked, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave that izzah. We see, prime example would be from the daughters, the girls, the females. The Arabs would look down on females. He would say that they are bad. He'd say having a firstborn daughter is bad. We see the reward Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says a person will get who has a daughter. He says, the hadith Rasulullah says, a person who has 3 daughters and he raises them properly and he teaches them Islam and he gets them married, this person will enter Jannah. Then one Sahaba asked, what about 2? Rasulullah says, yes, even if you do 2 daughters, then you will enter Jannah. Another person asked, Ya Rasulullah, what if I only have 1 daughter? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, and even having 1 daughter and doing this, you will still enter Jannah. So whatever the people, the custom of the Arabs they had, which they thought were lowly, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had given this izzat and given this status. So my brothers and elders, we as Muslims today, we need to know and understand the difference between our Islam and difference between our culture. The difference between Islam and a culture. Unfortunately today, all of this has become mixed. All of these things have become mixed, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even though he had given leeway for it, the amount of leeway that we have given this. Rasulullah in the hadith, he says, لا يؤمن أحدكم, that none of you will become a believer حتى يكون أحب إلي من والدك ووالديك, that I become more beloved to you than your parents. I become more beloved, none of you will become a believer until I become more beloved to you than your parents and all of and your children and all of the mankind. So we can just, from this hadith, we can understand that how can we love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam more than our own parents, more than our own children? How can we love Rasulullah more than this? Sometimes we feel like it's impossible. My brothers, the people of hadith, the muhaddithun, they have interpreted this and they have said that this hadith, where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying this is talking about muhabbat, which comes from the mind, which of intellect, the love of intellect, meaning that when there are two matters which are going against each other, one of deen and one of something else. Let's take culture for example. We give preference to the matter of deen. This is what we see today, brothers and elders. When our deen is going against our culture, we give preference to our culture. And this is something very bad and something very unfortunate to say as well. That we have given our culture more preference than we have given to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One prime example that we see today, especially in the youth, is, let's take the topic of marriage. My brothers and elders, parents, Allah in the Quran, yes, He tells us that yes, you must obey your parents. But sometimes we see parents, especially in our Desi communities, we take this hukum of Allah and we take it to the next level. That no matter in any situation, we always have to obey our parents. Every single thing that they are telling us, we must obey them. But my brothers and elders, we forget that also Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he put an exception to that rule. لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. That there is no obedience for the Creator, obedience for the creation in disobedience of the Creator. Meaning that we cannot disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while obeying the creation. Meaning if our parents are telling us to do something wrong, our parents are encouraging us to go to this wedding which has lots of fitna, are telling us to miss our salah, are telling us to do this and to not to do that, my brothers and students, we can disobey them at that time. So my brothers and elders, sometimes we see that our culture gives more preference than our deen. And this is the thing which is very unfortunate to hear in this day and age. So for us as Muslims living in this day and age, we need to ask, we need to learn, and we need to understand why we are Muslim first and foremost. We need to learn and understand our deen, the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will only understand our Islam once we go out and we try to learn and understand why we do every single thing that we do. All the things, especially today, before I started to study Islam, I thought whatever my parents had told me, this was part of deen. Whatever they had taught me, whatever they taught me from a young age, I had thought and I understood that this is deen. But many times later, I realized after studying deen, after studying hadith, after learning about the fiqh, we understand the many different things that our parents have taught us from a young age. This is only cultural. And the reason for this, that they themselves did not tell us, is because they themselves did not know either. Why did they not know? Because they were just told and they thought the same thing as well. That is why many a times when you go and we see, this is why culture clashes as well. We see the culture of America, us growing up here in America, in the West, our culture always will clash against the culture of our parents from back home. We see the big generation gap. Right? It was said that the generation gap between our father and our grandfather wasn't as big. Our great-grandfather and our grandfather wasn't as big. But the generation gap between us and our fathers, this is something huge. Why? Because our father and our grandfather, majority of us, our parents are immigrants in this country. They left their home and they came to America and they have settled down. Their culture over there, they grew up and were raised with that culture and they have come to America. Us, we would not grow up in that environment. We did not grow up how they grew up. We grew up in this country and we grew up in the West, and our cultures are much more different. Our customs and our values are much more different than that of back home. For example, something very simple. In America, when someone is talking to you, when someone is someone is reprimanding you, it is disrespectful to look down. If someone is scolding you, it is disrespectful to look down. We should look at the person if they're telling us something and advising us. We know back home in the Desi community, back home, if you look at someone, while they're yelling at you, you will definitely get smacked. Right? If you are looking at them while they are reprimanding you and they're yelling at you, you will get smacked. You're supposed to, the respectful thing to do is to look down. If you look back at them, it's a sign that you are being bold, that you don't care about what they are saying, and you will get a smack. Here, if you look down, it means that you don't care what they are saying, and this is why they want you to look at them. So we see the culture it's mixing all over the place. My brothers and elders, and students especially, we are the ones that are stuck. We are the ones that will be stuck in this cycle. our children, the next generation, when they grow up, the gap difference between us and them will not be as big as it is between us and our parents. So this is why we are stuck in the middle, and we need to understand and we need to learn our deen. We need to learn our Islam so we can filter out. This quality of filtering out what is good and what is bad is not there within the youth today. That whatever we hear, we take it for face value and we accept it. And once it goes against our morals, and once we find out this is false, we become very shocked. My brothers and elders and students, we need to learn our deen. We need to learn our Islam. We need to understand why we are doing what we are doing and why we are doing it. Anytime we are doing any sort of action, anytime we are doing any sort of ibadah, anytime we are doing any sort of thing which we were commanded to do, which we were told to do, ask why we are doing this. Has any of us ever sat down and contemplated and wondered why we are doing the things that we are doing? Why do I have to pray 5 times a day? Why am I celebrating Eid? Why am I doing this? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to get up for suhoor, to fast? Why do I have to do different things? We need to understand all of these things. My brothers and elders, the very first thing we need to understand is the culture of Islam. What does Islam tell us to do? And the culture of Islam is something which is very simple. That which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam brought with, and that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, this is the culture of Islam. This is what we need to first and foremost learn. Because we do not understand what Islam is, everything else that we are being taught or every single other thing that we hear, we automatically think this is part of deen as well. No, my brothers and elders and students, we need to learn and we need to understand our deen, and we need to first and foremost understand all the ahkam of Allah. So anytime anyone tells us anything, anytime anyone tells us you must do this, read this surah, this will happen, don't do this, the jinnat are living in the trees, don't go there, don't do this, we need to ask why. Ask why and learn research. If we don't know, come to the ulama, come to the scholars, come to the local imams, ask them. Tell them your situation, tell them what question you have. They will be more than happy to answer. They will love answering the questions that we have today. Because my brothers and elders and students, once our deen and Islam become mixed, we will look at all of these things as a fairy tale. We will look at different things that we see as superstition. That these are all things that our fathers are saying, we don't believe in it, let's just live our best life in America, live the American dream, forget about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do whatever we want and go off the straight path. And when this happens, especially in the youth, then we will see people will only be Muslim by name, as we have seen in different countries like Spain, where Muslims were there for hundreds and hundreds of years. But now if we go there right now, many of the masajid have become turned into churches. Many of the masajid, if you just go in there, you see they have Islamic names. The churches have Islamic names. And you will go there and you will see La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and things like that, or different things covered up. Why? Because Muslims were not taught deen properly. Muslims were not taught about the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they were just taught one thing. From birth they were Muslims and they grew up this way. Alhamdulillah, this is good, but they never understood why they were doing what they were doing. They never understood what was their deen and what was their culture. And because of this mix, everything became a habit. Coming to the masjid became a habit. Fasting every single year became a habit. Going for hajj was a habit. Paying zakah was a habit. All of these things that Islam tells us to do, all of these things became a habit. And we know when a person becomes tired of a habit, they will leave it right away. When a person does not like any sort of habit, or that factor which pushes a person to do a habit is not there anymore, people will leave their habits. So that is what Islam has become. It's just something that we have become tradition, something which has become a ritual, something which our culture has done. And once we don't lose the importance of this, then my brothers and elders, we have completely gone off from the straight path. This is why it's very important that we first and foremost try to learn the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever amount that we can. We try to learn all different parts about the deen. We know the deen is simple, but yet it has many parts that we need to learn. The very first thing that we all have to learn and understand about our deen is our aqeedah, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to learn and understand about our aqeedah. Who is Allah? What is Allah doing? What is Jannah? What is Jahannam? Who is Shaitan? What is he going to do? Understand all of these things. Then we slowly go on and we learn about our Quran, we learn about our fiqh, we learn about our hadith, and all of these different things. Then afterwards comes our culture. After we have learned our deen, after we have understood all the things within our deen, then comes our culture. And for us, especially being Bengali Americans, we have two cultures. We have, especially us, us, the ones that were first generation, who were firstly born here, our parents who are immigrants who came from Bangladesh to America to start a new life, for us we find it's going to be much more difficult than it will be for our children. Our children will be the second born generation, and for them to follow culture and Islam would be very easy, because they would know and they would understand and they would be educated by us. But for us, we need to understand both cultures. We need to understand the culture of America, of the West, and at the same time we need to understand the culture of Bangladesh. We need to understand the culture of Pakistan, wherever we are from, we need to understand that culture as well, because both cultures play a vital role in us being Muslims. Because the cultures over here, many of the cultures over here, it's sad to say, the cultures of America, many of them are take a person away from the deen of Allah than the cultures of back home. Yes, the cultures of back home, some of them are distorted, some of them are very extravagant, and some of them are very out of the world. But majority of the cultures that we have relating to back home, a majority of them are all out of respect. Majority of the cultures that we have, like I have said, like the example I gave when someone is scolding us to look down, this is out of respect. All the majority of the things that we have in Islam, these are all out of respect. These are all things that we do out of respect. Okay, and the cultures of America, we see some of them are good, alhamdulillah, but a good majority of the culture that we have here, majority of them are disrespectful. Majority of them go against the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That do whatever you want, don't let anyone do don't let anyone tell you what to do, whatever you feel like it, go ahead and do it. This is America, you can do whatever you want. We see today, whatever was prohibited 30, 40 years ago in American society, all the groups that have come out today in this day and age, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they were small minorities. No one cared, and these people were considered toxic. Now with these groups, if we don't accept them, we are the ones that are considered toxic. So my brothers and elders, we need to understand our culture. We need to understand our culture, and we need to understand our culture, and we need to understand the difference between our Islam, what our Islam tells us to do, and what our culture tells us to do. Once we know the difference, and once we understand the difference, now comes the hard part. Making our parents, making our relatives, making the people around us understand this type of mentality as well. Because we know when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, he came with the message of Islam. The people who would oppose him the most would be the elders, would be the people who are older, would be the people who the leaders of the Quraysh, the people who were leaders and people who had some sort of power and all of these things, because this was something which they were practiced upon by their fathers and their forefathers. If they had accepted the message of Rasulullah and they had rejected what their forefathers had taught them, it would mean that every single thing that they have learned was a lie. And this is how our parents would feel as well. If our parents were not educated, if our parents did not know the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way they should know it, if they don't know the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way they should know it, then when we go to them and we tell them and we try to explain to them, and we try to tell them that, Mom, Dad, look, this is not part of Islam, they will get very mad, because their whole lives they grew up with learning that this is Islam, thinking that this is part of Islam, and forgetting that this is part of their culture. So to understand it, we need to use great hikmah, and we need to use great wisdom, and be kind with them. And we need to educate our parents as well. Right? We cannot just go to them and we cannot just bash them and we cannot just tell them, yell at them, what are you following? This is wrong, this is Hindu culture, what are you doing? You have mixed your culture with Islam and you have gone on the wrong path, and all of these wrong different things. Rather, we should go to them with kindness. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that we always have to be kind to our parents, regardless, even if they are not Muslim. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when his mother was coming to him, she was not a Muslim. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu asked him that how should I be with her? How should I be with her? She is not a Muslim. Should I listen to what she says, or should I just rebuke her and tell her to leave me alone? I have become Muslim. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told her that you can be kind to her, service her. If she needs something, help her with it. If she tells you to do something against Islam, then yes, you can reject. But other than that, you still have to be kind to her. So my brothers and elders, we see from this incident that our parents deserve the utmost respect, even if they are not Muslim. So what about our parents who are Muslim, but they are just a bit confused? They do not know the difference between Islam and culture. So to educate them, we need to be kind to them. We need to be polite. Tell them, slowly inform them. Tell them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tell them about what Islam says. try to make them understand. If we feel that our efforts are not working, we try to bring them to someone who will. Bring them to the local imams, bring them to the imams, make them understand what is Islam, what is Deen. Once we do this, inshallah, then we will see slowly we will see that they are understanding, and we can separate the difference between these two. Because as I have mentioned again, if we don't do this, if we don't separate our Islam from our culture and we mix the two together, they will just become things that we will feel that, oh, this is just tradition. As tradition, we will go to the Masjid on Friday. Traditionally, we will celebrate this holiday that we have of the two Eids. We won't understand it as something which is from a religious standpoint. We will just treat it part of our culture, and we won't treat it as something which is divine and holy. We need to understand our Islam is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna deena inna Allahi Islam. That the religion which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts according to Him, it is the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is the religion of Deen. So this is why it's very important, my students and elders and brothers, that we need to learn Deen, and we need to not treat it as something which is just taught to us, something which our parents had taught to us. Rather, we need to go more in depth and need to learn it to a better degree and need to understand it to a higher standpoint and treat it that way as well. We need to treat it that this is something holy and this is something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those things which are not part of Deen, we should not treat it as if they are part of Deen. We should not treat it as if that if leaving this thing out would cause us to get sin. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, "Man ahdatha fi amrina ma laysa minhu fahuwa raddun." That a person who creates something and who innovates something in Deen, he adds onto Islam something which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam never added on before, then this is something which is completely rejected. And a person who we know who innovates something, then this innovation is something which would lead a person to the fire of Jahannam. And innovation, my brothers, is something that we consider to be part of Islam. Yes, having your culture is allowed, but to consider the culture part of Islam, now to bring the culture into Islam, that no, you have to do this. If you don't do this, then you will get sin. My brothers, this will lead a person to complete misguidance. And this is why people sometimes, especially the non-Muslims, when they see Islam, they see different versions. They go to a Desi community, they see Islam one way. They go to an African community, they see Islam another way. They go to an Indonesian community, they see Islam a different way. They go to an Arab community, they see Islam a different way. We need to separate the two and need to focus on our ideals and our fundamental things. The things which Islam has told us, the things which were taught to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, these things we need to show first. And if something that we want to show to the community, or something we as a whole we want to do, or we want to celebrate or do something, then we need to tell everyone and we need to inform everyone that this is our culture, this is something that we have done culturally. Because we know everyone is different and all cultures of the world are different. This is why, my brothers and elders and students, we have to understand and first and foremost ourselves, educate ourselves about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, learn about Allah's deen, and learn about why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do what He's telling us to do. Why we have to pray, why we are celebrating Eid. Learn the history of all these things. When did Salah become fard? When did Sawm? When did we have to start fasting? Learn about all of these different things. Learn about our history and our culture. The way that we are taught about the US government and the US Constitution of Bill of Rights. Learn about the Quran. Learn about the Islamic empires. Learn about Islam, our deen. Learn about all the things which Allah Rabbul Alameen is telling us to do in the Quran. And learn these things. That way, anything that you see which is unfamiliar to the deen of Allah, you will understand that this is not Allah's deen. You will understand that you can differentiate between the two. And I mentioned how we can do this. We can come to our first and foremost, the best way is to self-study yourself as well. Learn about history. We have Google today. Instead of using Google to search up Fortnite and all these other ridiculous other things, go online and look at educational Islamic videos. Learn about the history of Islam. History is something very simple that we can understand. Just read about it, understand it, comprehend it. Once we understand these things, that we learn what is truth and what is culture, then we can differentiate the two very easily, and we'll be able to come onto the straight path, and we will not let the two mix together. And we know the consequence of what will happen if we don't know these things. If we just let the two mix together and come together, then my brothers and elders, then we will become lost, and slowly we will see our generations going further and further astray. We will see every single generation coming afterwards. Each and every generation coming, they will go further and further away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my brothers and elders, we need to learn ourselves and educate ourselves first, then we will bring on our parents and our families upon the deen of Allah. Once we all do this, then we can differentiate between the two. And of course, my brothers and elders, Islam does give leeway. Islam does give leeway, and Islam does allow a person to practice their culture as well. Islam is not such a religion that says, okay, now you have become a Muslim, now you have become following Islam, you have to leave your language of Bangla, you have to learn Arabic, you cannot wear this, you cannot eat this type of food, you have to eat camel meat all the time, you have to live off of Zamzam water and raisins and dates, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. Islam does not tell us that. Islam is a religion which has us'a, which has flexibility, which allows other things to come in so long as they do not go against the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One last thing I would like to share before we can start the question and answer is the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that he gave, the greatest example that he gave to the people of Makkah when the Quran was revealed. In the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that the Quran was revealed upon sab'ata ahruf. And the Quran was revealed upon 7 different huruf, 7 different letters. That's a literal translation, 7 letters. But the actual meaning, what the scholars they say about this sab'ata ahruf, we know, or if we don't know, we can learn today, inshallah, something new we can learn, that the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam recited the Quran in 7 different dialects. We know the people of Makkah, all of the people of Makkah, they had different tribes. Like, let's take for example the easiest way for us to understand. We know in Bangladesh there is one national type of Bangla everyone understands, which is Shuddha. Then we have different groups of people, the Silati people, the Noakhali people, the Chittagong people, the Shandi people, different groups of people. They all speak Bangla, but with a different variation. There's a little bit variation in their Bangla, different words, different dialects. So the Quran, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even though all the people of Makkah understood the Quraysh, the Arabic, the Quraysh flow, this was the language in which the dialect with the Quran was revealed upon. But even though all the people understood it, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam still went to different tribes of the Arabs and he recited the Quran to them in their dialect. Right? This is the meaning of the Quran being revealed upon 7 dialects. That Rasulullah, even though he didn't have to, even though he knew those people, they understood his type of Arabic, he still recited the Quran to them in their dialect as well. Just out of respect for their culture and showing them that he has respect for them as well. So this is something that we, my brothers and others and students, also need to understand, and we also need to try to comprehend as well that Islam does allow it, but we just need to know the limits and we just need to know the difference between the two. So now, inshallah, we can have one small little session, inshallah, for our question and answers, inshallah. Whichever brothers or students would like have any sort of questions related to this topic or related to anything at all, inshallah, they can ask. They should feel free to ask. I think papers going around, everyone can take one, inshallah, and put a question, inshallah, and we can.
Jazakallah Khair to the speaker for that beautiful speech. One of the beautiful points that he mentioned is that, we should ask why. We should ask questions. We shouldn't live in a cloud of doubt. If you're living in a cloudy, murky area and environment, you should cleanse yourself from that and you should ask questions and make your life bright. So you should ask questions. Don't feel discouraged to ask questions. So inshallah we'll have our Q&A session as we said before many times, but just for the newcomers, that we have 3 ways of asking questions. The first way of asking the question is by the email that's either in front of the masjid or to the right of the masjid. The second way, you can write it on a piece of index paper and you can send it to the front or downstairs and we'll answer the questions inshallah if we get time to it. And the third way is to raise your hand. For those in front of us, you can raise your hand. And the first 2 are totally anonymous. So please ask, do not be scared. Just some questions you can ask perhaps is, for example, one of the questions you can ask is this aspect of culture, is this Islamic, is this not Islamic? For example, some things that we might have been taught as young kids, this is Islam, you can ask the speaker, the Moulana Sahib, if this is true Islam. You can ask questions like this, inshallah. So we can dig in, inshallah. I believe we have some questions here.
Assalamu alaikum. The first question is, if music is haram, then why is it part of the culture?
You see, my brothers and sisters, this is the first thing. Right? If music is haram, why is it part of Eid culture? Music is not haram. I'm sorry. Music part of Eid, music is something which is not allowed. We have made our Eid such that we have played so much music that now we believe that is part of the Eid culture as well. Unfortunately, it is not. And what we do here, this is called a nasheed. The Islamic music or Islamic songs that we hear, this is the nasheed. This is something which is allowed. Has no music, just vocals or a daf. A daf is an instrument which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had allowed, and he saw the companions, like I've mentioned in the story, the Ethiopians when they were playing their daf. A daf is like a drum It's like a frame drum which is made out of skin, and they would play it to make a sound, and they would sing nasheeds. They would sing about the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, say poems. The Arabs are very great poets. They would say these type of things. But music, the one we have today that we listen to, unfortunately, which is being listened to by the rappers and all these different types of people, this is something which is completely haram because first of all, because of the beats and the instruments that are used. Then the message of this music, what it says about drugs and killing and all these different types of things, with what it promotes, these are the two reasons which it makes it haram. This is why it is not allowed.
The second question is, if music is haram, then does becoming a musician haram?
Yes, of course. This relates to anything in life. Music is haram. Anything related to the music is also haram as well, right? Especially being a musician, someone who plays anything. This relates to everything which is haram, right? Person, pork is haram. You cannot sell pork. You cannot do any sort of transactions with pork. Islamically, a person, he does any sort of transaction with the things which are haram, these things are automatically invalidated and do not count.
Are women or teenage girls allowed to give salam or answer them to the opposite gender?
They should not. The ruling is they should not give salam unnecessarily. If they have to give salam because of a meeting or because out of courtesy, because of someone elder or something, because of answering. Let's say a man comes to knock on their door and they say assalamu alaikum. This is allowed because out of necessity. As for handshakes, no, this is not allowed at all. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that touching the hand of an ajnabi woman, a woman who is not related to you at all, this is worse than getting hit with an iron rod on your head. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained the severity of touching a woman who is ajnabi, who's a woman who is not related to you at all, a woman who you can marry but you are not married to her.
Why do we have to fast the day before Eid al-Adha?
That is the day of Arafah. That is the day before Eid al-Adha is Arafah. That's the day where all the Hujjaj, they go to the mountain of Arafah and they make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him for forgiveness and stuff like that. So those of us who don't go for Hajj, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given great reward on that day. Person who fasts on that day, their sins of that year and the previous year becomes forgiven. And another narration says their sins of that year and the following year will become forgiven.
Why do people have to do Qurbani?
Again, this is Qurbani. The importance of Qurbani is from what? Why do we do Qurbani? This goes to the history of Eid al-Adha. Why do we even do Eid al-Adha? Because this is an honor and tribute to our father Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? The one who has named us Muslims. He because of his sacrifice, because of his test, him passing the test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Rabbul Alameen told him to what? Slaughter who? His son, his beloved son Ismail, and he was ready to do it, and right when he was about to do it, the knife was ready to cut the boy's throat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the ram from Jannah and it took his spot, and this is why we also sacrifice on that day. And again, we don't use this meat for ourselves, we give it to who? The poor people around us as well.
How is it being with the opposite gender considered bad and why?
Being with the opposite gender, of course, this is something which is one of the tricks of shaitan, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when a man and a woman are alone, the third one is shaitan. Anytime two people of the opposite gender are together, shaitan will always be there and he will always try his best to make the two fall into haram. Even though things, again, I mentioned in the beginning, shaitan will never tell a person, go right away and do haram, go do this, go do that, go kill someone right away. He'll slowly he'll push you in the direction to do something and to do haram. This is why being alone and hanging out with a person of the opposite gender, even if you feel in your heart that no, this is not going to happen, she's just my friend or he is just my friend, we're not like that, we don't do any of these things, shaitan will always be working and he will always try his best for the people to fall into haram. And this is why this is not allowed.
In going to college environment, how would you recommend keeping your deen, balancing Islam, and just typical college culture?
Okay, so main thing, number one would be, again, college culture. I feel that being a Muslim and holding on to deen is much more easier in college than in high school, because high school drama is something very very crazy and leads to very suicidal things and stuff like that. But since the answer is from college culture, it's something very easy to do. To be honest, it's just something we just need to take the himmat and be courageous. Right? We know we need to stay away from the temptation, and it starts with number one, making the right friends. Not, of course, sometimes it's essential that we need to be friends, with the right people, right? So number one, it would start with being friends with only people of your gender, right? Sometimes we go to college and high school and we are friends with everybody. This shouldn't be the case. Right? If we see, if we have to work in a group or have to do something like that with someone of the opposite gender, yeah, if we have to, then yes, we would have to do it, but we only limit it to that purpose, right? There's nothing extra. Hey, after the project, you want to go get something to drink? No, we don't do any of these things. We limit it to whatever we have to do. Okay, that's number one. Number two, after having the right friend circle, number two is that we need to connect ourselves with a sheikh, and we need to connect ourselves with someone who's pious or someone we can go to anytime we have questions or anything like that. Right? Many of the times in colleges and stuff like that, especially those of us when we go to college, we're going to take maybe sometimes we want to get a good score, so we take Islamic history and stuff like that. A lot of the things they teach, I have friends who go and they say a lot of the things they teach, and over there, this is like they've never heard of it. They come to me and they ask me, and I say, no, this is completely not allowed. I don't know why they're saying these things. So we need to connect ourselves with someone who is at least qualified, who can answer all of our questions that we have and the doubts that we may have, or anything that may come up, or someone we can refer to as a reference. Anytime we have a question, we have an event, or something happened, some masla, some incident occurred, now we need to know the Islamic ruling behind it. Have someone, connect yourself with someone at all times that you can always ask. And lastly, the last part of it is how to keep your deen, right? Yeah, so balancing your Islamic college culture. Obviously, if we know there's going to be a party with drinks and stuff like that, we know we're not supposed to go there. These are red lines. Places where are red lights, we avoid those places. If it is an MSA event, an event for just Muslims only, or a formal gathering where we know haram won't be happening, we can go to those places. Again, and also limiting ourselves as well. Because many of these events, also these MSA events and things like that, they also have things which are also not permissible or should not be allowed. But because of people's misunderstanding, they are allowed. We need to limit ourselves and always avoid them as well.
This question has two parts.
Okay.
If men and women are equal, why do women have to wear a different hijab? Part two, will a woman go to Jahannam even if they don't wear their hijab, but they still follow all the other 5 pillars of Islam?
Okay, number one, men and women are not created equal, so that whole part. Why do women have to wear hijab? Allah created everyone differently. That's number one. Allah created a species of male differently from the species of female. A male cannot carry a baby in his stomach for 9 months. A female cannot go in the female cannot do the things a man can do. Okay, so these are two different things, two different creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah had created differently. And because of Allah created each one differently, Allah will judge them differently as well. That is why people who are autistic or people who are mentally retarded or people who have different disabilities, Allah will not judge them the same way He will judge a person who is 100% healthy. Okay, so we need to understand first and foremost, men and women are not created equal. And why Allah tells the woman to cover herself and things like that is because we know women are creations of beauty, right? Many hadith, many times Rasulullah tells a woman she should adorn herself for her husband. And this beautification and these things should only be set for her spouse. It should not be set for anyone else. And we see all of these things. We see that because of immodesty and immorality and all of these things, what happened? Right? If we follow Twitter and news, we see what? The Me Too movement. Me Too movement is what? All of these cases of harassment and all of these cases where men are harassing women and doing wrongful things to them without their consent and things like that. And this has become a whole movement. And what is the reason for this movement? The reason being is because of women women are dressed in morality, women are dressed immorally, they are hanging out with the men of the opposite gender in private spaces and things like that. Actually, what Rasulullah had said 1400 years ago, they are trying to implement this now. They're trying to put, especially in the Hollywood and those areas, California, those areas, because that's where the majority of it is coming out. They're actually trying to implement this case where a man and a woman cannot be alone together privately for any sort of meetings and things like that. It has to be moderated. This is something Rasulullah said 1400 years ago. Because of not following it, all these problems will occur. So this is why a woman needs to cover herself, to preserve herself, and so that she can avoid fitna as well. And the second part is, will a person go to Jahannam? Well, number one, to do any of the ahkam, the 5 pillars of Islam, you do need to cover yourself. You cannot pray without covering your hair. You cannot go for Hajj without covering your hair. So the very fundamental thing of praying salah without wearing a hijab would not be there. So how would a person essentially enter Jannah if their salah doesn't even count? So yes, they would still have to wear hijab.
The last question is, why is that men can show more skin than women?
This again goes back to the way Allah created everyone. Allah created men differently for women. We, as youngsters today, when a man sees a woman, right? He looks at what? The beauty of a man. Any single woman he sees, right? Any single woman he sees, he looks at the beauty. He automatically in his head, even boys, if they don't want to say it, they don't want to admit it, they have like a radar in the back of their head, a rating calculator. Oh, she's like a 6, she's a 6 out of 10, she's a 7 out of 10, she's a 9 out of 10. Right? But when girls look at boys, they don't have that same way. They don't think that same process. Women do not look at men the same way. They don't look at every single boy and start rating him. If they see a boy who looks super cute or who looks very nice, they'll say, oh, he looks very good, he looks very handsome. Right? But for men, for boys, every single woman that he sees, every single woman that he sees, automatically he'll start rating them and he'll start, fantasizing all these different things. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everyone differently, and this is why men, they're allowed to do this, because when women see that part of a man, they won't feel that way. But for a man, even if he looks at a woman's foot, her feet, he will still feel attracted to her. Right? That's it.
Jazakallah Khair to our speaker. MashaAllah, it was a very nice speech. And the next program will be September 14th, inshallah. Inshallah, if you do not sign up for the email you should give in your email on a piece of paper and give it in, so that any time a program occurs, we can send you the email and you'll be updated in regards to the next program, inshallah. Now, I just want to encourage everyone that as individuals, as parents, as children, as sons and daughters, please try to learn about Islam. Please try to learn about why everything is the way it is in Islam, so that you can combat the situations and the scenarios that will take place in school. Because one of the most dangerous places, and I've been through it, is in fact the school environment. We're living in a non-Muslim country, so we have to equip ourselves with the right tools, the right armor to be able to battle these fitnas, these trials and tribulations and tests that we're going to face in school. Because indeed the school is a very dangerous environment. So let us create a bubble, let us create a force field between us and the fitnas that will come to us in school. So inshallah, try to come to these youth programs, try to invite your friends, whoever they may be, older, younger, whoever they may be, invite them. Inshallah, you'll share in the good deeds, inshallah. So now we would like to conclude the program and hope to see you guys for the next program, inshallah. And now the food will be served downstairs, so I will request all the youngsters to go downstairs and enjoy some food. Jazakallah Khair. Assalamu alaikum.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Straighten your lines.
Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله